For years, America has watched Kyle Richards and Mauricio Umansky as if they were the unshakable pillars of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Kyle, the lively, charismatic Beverly Hills icon. Mauricio, the calm, charming real estate titan with the easy smile. Together they embodied what so many fans believed was the rare blend of Hollywood glamour and genuine, lasting partnership. A sprawling family, successful careers, a shared life built on decades of love and loyalty. But behind the glitter of the Bravo cameras, their story held something else. Moments of fear, private heartbreak, and a health scare that Kyle still says changed her forever. Today, we step away from the parties, diamonds, and confessional chairs, and go into the moments the cameras almost never see. This is the story of how Kyle and Mauricio's bond was built, tested, and reshaped through career pressure, public scrutiny, and one health emergency that brought everything to a halt. Before the drama, there was a foundation. Long before paparazzi waited outside SER or BravoCon panels, Kyle and Mauricio built their relationship on something far quieter, a kind of grounded partnership that felt rare for Beverly Hills. They married young, created a blended family, and made deliberate choices to protect their home from Hollywood chaos. Friends described them as a fortress, a unit that moved as one. Mauricio has said many times that he admired Kyle long before she was reality TV royalty. Not because she was flashy, but because she had a steadiness, a sense of humor, a warmth he trusted immediately. Kyle often referred to Mauricio as her safe space, the person who calmed storms before she even noticed them forming. But even the strongest foundations develop cracks when the spotlight grows hotter. And over time, the world Kyle and Mauricio built began facing pressure they never anticipated. The rise of pubic pressure. When Kyle joined RHOBH in 2010, her life transformed overnight. Fans adored her. The show exploded in popularity. The Richards-Umansky family became household names. But with fame came something else, constant scrutiny. Suddenly, strangers dissected everything. Her marriage, her friendships, her body, her tone of voice. Mauricio, meanwhile, was rising as one of the most successful agents in Los Angeles. The agency grew from a fledgling brokerage into a global luxury brand. A good thing, but also a growing weight. What fans saw were glamorous open houses and million-dollar listings. What they didn't see was the toll, the late nights, the pressure to outperform competitors, and the increasing distance that came from two people trying to chase success without losing each other. Kyle once said, "We were always running, always working, always smiling, but sometimes we forgot to slow down." That pace worked, until it didn't. The unexpected shift. Friends say there was a moment, small, invisible to most, when Kyle sensed something was changing with Mauricio. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that screamed problem. Just little things. He seemed tired. Not the normal tired, but drained. He skipped dinners because he wasn't hungry. Laughed less. Lost weight without trying. Started coming home in a fog of exhaustion. Kyle later admitted, "It was tiny things, easy to brush off, but there was a shift. I felt it before I understood it." For months, she pushed aside the worry. "Real estate is stressful," she told herself. RHOBH is overwhelming. Everyone gets burnt out. But then came the day that forced everything into the open. The healthy scare. What happened next is something Kyle has rarely spoken about in full detail. A night when Mauricio suddenly felt so weak, disoriented, and short of breath that Kyle panicked and insisted they leave for the hospital immediately. The cameras were off. The microphones were off. The world had no idea. At the ER, everything moved fast. Blood work, scans, medical terms, neither of them fully processed in the moment. Mauricio later admitted he had ignored warning signs for months. Dizziness, unexplained fatigue, bouts of heart-racing stress, trouble sleeping. Kyle broke down recalling it. I kept thinking, how did I not see this? How did we not slow down sooner? Doctors ran a full evaluation. While the details remain private, as they should, what is known is that they issued a clear warning. Mauricio needed rest. He needed monitoring. He needed to step back. And for the first time, the couple who seemed indestructible felt frighteningly human. Kyle later said the scariest part wasn't the hospital. It was the drive home when Mauricio looked at her and said quietly, I think I've been pretending to be fine for too long. The AFTERITH, a family RHOBH reality. For weeks after the health scare, their home shifted into a kind of suspended stillness. Everything slowed down. Fewer meetings, fewer appearances. Late-night agency calls put on hold. Filming paused for Kyle. Their daughters were shaken. Family dinners felt emotional in ways they hadn't been before. Everyone suddenly became aware of how close they'd come to something unthinkable. Kyle describes that time as a wake-up call we didn't want, but needed. Mauricio's recovery wasn't dramatic, but it was humbling. He had to learn to rest, to check in with himself, to stop pretending stress wasn't eating away at his health. Kyle learned something too, that being strong doesn't mean ignoring your intuition, and that even the strongest partners sometimes crumble under pressure that no one else sees. Più dell'esse facade vs private affair. When they eventually returned to filming, viewers noticed changes. Kyle seemed more sensitive. Mauricio appeared quieter, more reflective. Rumors exploded. Affairs, separation, tension, emotional distance. But few people understood the truth. They were healing, privately. Away from headlines, Kyle admitted in an interview. People thought they knew what was happening, but they didn't. They saw a storyline, not the reality we were living. Mauricio mirrored this sentiment. You try to be strong for television, but some things you just can't mask forever. Their marriage didn't fall apart because of a single moment. Nor was it broken beyond repair. But it did transform, permanently. A relationship REWRITN, not rewind. What followed over the next months, and what the world later interpreted as a separation, was actually something more nuanced, more human. After decades together, Kyle and Mauricio realized they needed space to grow as individuals. Not in anger, not in resentment, but with love. Kyle described it as two people choosing to pause instead of break. Mauricio said, "We're still a family." That never changed. They attended therapy. They set boundaries. They stopped pretending everything was perfect. They learned new languages of communication, a slower one, more honest, less performative. Their daughters have said they never doubted their parents' bond, just that they needed breathing room. What the public never understood. The world speculates. It judges. It creates narratives for entertainment. But behind closed doors, what Kyle and Mauricio faced was the same thing thousands of couples do. Overwork, exhaustion, health scares that force reprioritization, the fear of losing the person you built your life with. Only they had to do it under the harshest spotlight imaginable. Their story isn't one of failure. It's one of transformation. A reminder that even relationships built on decades of love must sometimes evolve to survive. Kyle once summed it up perfectly. We're not broken. We're human, and humans grow. Where they stand, TODAI. Today, Kyle and Mauricio remain deeply connected. Co-parents, business allies, emotional anchors. A family, even if the structure is different. They spend holidays together. Support each other's careers. Celebrate milestones as a unit. And perhaps most importantly, They learned that real love isn't measured by appearances, but by how you show up when life becomes frighteningly real. Mauricio's health scare wasn't the end of their story. It was the moment they realized their partnership needed more care, attention, and honesty, not just for the cameras, but for themselves. Closing. For years, fans believed Kyle and Mauricio represented the ideal Beverly Hills marriage. But the truth is far more compelling. Behind the diamonds and dinner parties was a family navigating fear, health uncertainty, emotional growing pains, and the pressure of living under constant public judgment. Their story isn't about perfection. It's about resilience. A reminder that the strongest relationships aren't the ones without challenges, but the ones where two people choose, over and over again, to face those challenges with truth and courage. And that even in Beverly Hills, the most important battles happen far from the cameras.